he almost kept driving. He cleared 100 roads that morning, same route, same gray sky pressing down like a lid on something that couldn't get out. But something about this one made him stop. He cut the engine, climbed down, walked toward it, brushed the snow back with his gloved hand, and stumbled away. Because it wasn't snow. It was a woman, and someone had put her there like furniture. Before I tell you her name, I need to tell you about 3 secrets, because every single one of them was kept by someone who said they loved her, and every single one of them was used to kill her. 3 secrets. One afternoon, she found all of them. She didn't survive the night. Graywick was the kind of town where nothing bad was supposed to happen, which is exactly the kind of town where it always does. When the police arrived minutes later, they confirmed what the snowplow driver already feared. The woman had been there for hours, lying just off the road as if she'd been carefully, deliberately placed. Not fallen, not stumbled, left, as if someone had made a very deliberate decision about where she should be. Her name was Nora Callahan. She was 32 years old. She was a nurse at Graywick General. And here's the kind of person she was. Every morning before her shift began, Nora would walk the ward and write the name of each patient on a small sticky note. Not for medical records, not for protocol. She'd press them to the inside of her wrist, just the first name in her own handwriting, so she'd remember to use it every time she checked on them. She believed that when you're sick and frightened and surrounded by strangers, hearing someone say your name is the closest thing to feeling human again. 6 years, every shift, not one name missed. And in the 3 months that followed, the 3 most brutal months of the investigation that would consume Detective Leon Crane, he would come to understand that the same thing that made Nora a great nurse is exactly what got her killed. She trusted the wrong people, completely. To understand how Nora ended up in that snow, you have to understand who she trusted. Nora grew up in a household that looked fine from the outside. Her mother, Diane, was warm and sociable. Her father, Ray, was attentive and devoted, to Nora especially. The kind of father who showed up to everything, who remembered everything, who made you feel like you were the most important person in the world. But behind closed doors, things between her parents were not right. When Nora was in college, Ray and Diane divorced. No screaming matches the neighbors could hear, no dramatic explosion, just a quiet, cold separation that seemed to come out of nowhere. Nora asked her mother why. Diane kept it vague. Incompatibility. They just weren't right anymore. Nora wasn't satisfied, but she accepted it, and quietly, silently, she took her father's side. That resentment toward her mother would fade over time, especially after Nora met someone. His name was Marcus Callahan. She spotted him near her mother's home one afternoon, tall, quiet, the kind of man who seemed like he was always thinking about something important. She started visiting her mother more, and every time she did, Marcus was there. She thought it was fate. She thought he was waiting for her. He was not waiting for her. One day she told him how she felt. He didn't say yes right away. He asked for a day to think about it. That should have been the first sign. He wasn't processing his feelings. He wasn't touched. He wasn't nervous. He was going to tell someone, and that someone wasn't Nora. The next day he said yes. They dated. They got engaged. They got married. And for a while, everything was wonderful. Her colleague, Priya, remembered something Nora told her about a year into the marriage, during a quiet night shift when the ward had finally settled down. "I can handle anything, as long as I know the people I love are okay." Priya didn't understand until much later what those words would cost her. But here's what nobody in Nora's life was willing to say out loud. The reason Marcus was always near her mother's house had nothing to do with Nora. And in 3 years, that secret would get her killed. Most detectives will tell you the first 48 hours of a murder investigation are sacred. Crane had used his first 48 hours building a case against the wrong person. He wouldn't know that for 3 more months. 3 months before what should have been a wedding anniversary celebration, Nora was dead, and Detective Leon Crane was standing over a body that had more questions attached to it than answers. The medical examiner's report was unambiguous. Nora Callahan had been strangled, manually, up close. This wasn't random. This wasn't a mugging gone wrong. Whoever did this looked Nora in the eyes when they did it. Crane brought in the three people closest to Nora: her husband, Marcus Callahan, her mother, Diane Voss, her father, Ray Voss. Marcus was broken up, shaking, said he couldn't imagine who would do this. Diane said the same. No enemies, no threats, nobody with a reason. But Ray said something different. He looked Crane dead in the eyes and said, "I think Marcus did it." He explained that Nora had come to visit him the evening of the murder. She arrived looking worried, shaken, but she wouldn't say why. Said she needed to talk to Marcus first, and she left within 20 minutes. 20 minutes. She came all the way to her father's house, visibly falling apart, and left without saying a single word about it. Crane also noticed something he didn't know what to do with yet. Ray Voss was already dressed when he arrived at 7 a.m. Tie, pressed shirt, shoes, as if he'd been expecting company. He wrote Marcus's name at the top of the board. He was wrong, but the name he should have written had been in that room the whole time. When police sat Marcus down, he laid it out calmly. Nora had come home early that day, around 4 p.m., way earlier than usual. She normally worked until 8 or even 10 at night. Why was she home so early? It was their wedding anniversary. She wanted to surprise him. But something went wrong. An argument broke out. Marcus admitted to it, said Nora had been frustrated lately, complaining he didn't put enough effort into the relationship, that she felt alone, that things weren't what they used to be. The argument escalated. Nora grabbed her keys and left. Marcus said he followed shortly after, but not to chase her. He went to Diane's house, his mother-in-law, to tell her what had happened, to figure out what to do. Diane confirmed this, completely. Marcus arrived, told her about the fight, and she advised him to give Nora space, let her cool down. Crane had been a detective for 19 years. He had heard 1,000 alibi stories. He knew what a lie sounded like, the small hesitations, the over-specific detail, the way people look at the ceiling when they're retrieving something they invented rather than something they lived. He didn't hear any of that. What he heard instead was something that took him longer to recognize. Marcus's statement and Diane's statement matched, not because they were lying, because they had both experienced the same evening and were both describing it accurately. They were telling the truth. And the truth, the real, factual, verified truth, was also a perfect cover story for what had actually happened. Crane wrote both statements in full, put them side by side, stared at them for a long time. Then he wrote one question underneath both of them. What did they leave out? Ask yourself this. When two people give you the exact same story, down to the exact same details, is that because they're telling the truth, or because they've had time to agree on what the truth sounds like? Police pulled the CCTV footage from Marcus and Nora's apartment building. Nora arrived at 4 p.m., confirmed. She left around 4:20, confirmed. Then, 5 minutes later, Marcus's car left too. Standard, expected, nothing unusual. Except, 2 hours before Nora arrived home, another car had pulled into the complex. Investigators had looked right past it the first time, assumed it was a neighbor, didn't even flag it. They flagged it now. Meanwhile, when Nora's body was found, her car was nowhere near the scene. Police traced CCTV along every route she could have taken. They found it heading out of town on one camera, and then the cameras ended. No more footage, no car. A week of searching. Garages, parking lots, side streets, nothing. Until they found it outside the city, in an old scrapyard, badly damaged. The scrapyard owner remembered the man who brought it in. Tall, muscular, cap and a mask, you couldn't see his face. He brought the car in late at night, sold it for almost nothing, And then, unprompted, without being asked, he told the owner to destroy it immediately. He stood there and watched while the owner damaged the vehicle right in front of him, just to confirm it was done. The man at the scrapyard hadn't acted alone. Crane could feel it. You don't drive a dead woman's car across county lines at 11 p.m. unless someone told you where to go and what to do when you got there. Someone had organized this. Someone who hadn't moved from a residential address all night. That's not how a grieving husband disposes of a car. That's how a killer eliminates evidence. The only person in the frame who matched the description, tall, muscular, was Marcus. By mid-November, Crane had built what he believed was enough. The matching statements, rehearsed to the syllable, the car destroyed in real time by someone matching Marcus's description, the argument on the anniversary, the last moment Nora was seen alive in their home. A husband who never once broke down in front of investigators. Not once. He presented his findings to the district attorney. They were 48 hours from filing charges. Then the lab came back.
The man at the scrapyard. They had a partial fingerprint from the car's door frame. They ran it. It didn't match Marcus. Crane sat in his office for a long time after that. The case, the careful, logical, almost airtight case he'd spent 3 months building, had just developed a crack wide enough to walk through. If not Marcus, then who? And if not Marcus, then why did every person closest to Nora seem to be protecting the same secret? The doctor was a distraction, but he led them to the one person in this story who was actually telling the truth. One name surfaced while Crane was rebuilding his approach. Priya told investigators that a hospital doctor had developed an obsession with Nora. He'd been making her work life difficult, extra shifts, extended duties, any excuse to keep her in that building. Police brought him in. He had an alibi, emergency surgery. 4 hours, verifiable down to the minute. He was cleared. But Priya also mentioned something she'd almost forgotten. Something small that Crane nearly wrote off entirely. The week before Nora died, she'd told Priya she'd found something at home that didn't add up, something she didn't understand yet. She was going to confront Marcus about it. She never got the chance. 3 months. No arrest, no confession, no breakthrough. Crane spread everything out on the table, every statement, every frame of footage, every detail that had felt wrong and then been explained away. He kept coming back to the same moment, Nora's parents' divorce. Diane had described it as incompatibility. They just weren't right anymore. Ask yourself this. When someone describes the end of a marriage with a word as clean and bloodless as incompatibility, what are they actually protecting? Crane pushed Diane, not accusingly, gently, persistently. And this time, she told him. The real reason she'd left Ray Voss, the reason she'd never told anyone, especially not Nora, was something she'd come home to find one afternoon after a business trip. She'd walked into their bedroom and found Ray. He was holding Nora's underwear, his own daughter's, pressing it to his face. Diane confronted him. He broke down, begged, promised it was a sickness he couldn't control, promised it would never go further, promised he would do anything, if she just didn't tell Nora. So Diane made a deal. She'd keep the secret if he gave her the divorce quietly and stayed out of Nora's life. He agreed. For years, he kept the promise, until the night Nora came to his door. Crane now had 2 secrets, one from the husband's side of the family, one from the father's. And somewhere between the 2, there was a murder. Crane went back through the footage. That mystery car, the one that arrived 2 hours before Nora, what was it doing there? He ran the plates. He ran them again just to be sure. The car belonged to Diane Voss, Nora's mother, was at Nora's apartment building on the afternoon of the murder, before Nora even got home, and had never mentioned it, not once, in any interview. Crane brought both Marcus and Diane in simultaneously, separate rooms, neither able to coordinate. He showed Diane the footage. She denied it, said it wasn't her car. He put the plate numbers on the table, side by side. Her car, the car in the footage, identical. The room went very quiet, and then Diane started talking. What she confessed to rewrote everything Diane Voss and Marcus Callahan had been in a relationship. Not since the marriage, before it. Marcus used to come to Diane's home because of her, not because of Nora. When Nora saw Marcus near her mother's house and believed it was fate, believed he was waiting for her, he was there for her mother. When Nora told Marcus she loved him and he asked for a day to think about it, he wasn't touched. He wasn't nervous. He was going back to Diane to tell her what had happened. And Diane's response? She told him to say yes, because if Marcus married Nora, they could continue their relationship right under everyone's noses. Nora would never suspect her own husband, would never suspect her own mother. Nobody would ever look twice. For 3 years, it worked. Nora worked long hours at the hospital. Marcus and Diane carried on, until the afternoon of their wedding anniversary. Nora came home early to surprise him. She opened the door, and she found them, together, in her own home. She didn't scream. She didn't fight. She broke down completely. And the argument that followed wasn't about Marcus not putting enough effort into the relationship. It was about a betrayal so total, so intimate, that she couldn't even say the words out loud when she got to her father's house. She just sat there, shaking, and left. Crane stopped reviewing the files. He didn't need to. He had been staring at 3 names for 3 months: a husband, a mother, a father. And he had been asking the wrong question the whole time.
He'd been asking who had motive. They all did. The right question was simpler. Who was the only person Nora would have gone to, on the worst night of her life, without calling first, without hesitating? Her father. Crane picked up his keys. He drove to Ray Voss's house. He knocked on the door of the one person in this investigation who had never once cried. Not at the crime scene, not in interviews, not once. The door opened. Ask yourself this. If you had just discovered that your husband and your mother had been deceiving you for 3 years, which person on earth would you run to? Your father. The one person you believed was still clean. Ray Voss was not clean. He knew Nora was coming to him already broken. He knew that if she sat with him long enough, if she started talking, the night might end with her discovering not 1 secret, but 2. Nora arrived at her father's house, broken. She sat down in his living room, trying to find the words for what she'd just seen. Her husband, her mother, in her own home. And then she looked up, and she saw him, her father. The man she had chosen over her mother in the divorce. The man she'd trusted above everyone. The man who had, her entire life, made her feel like the most important person in the room. He was wearing her underwear. Something inside Nora broke completely. In a single afternoon, every person she had ever loved had revealed themselves to be someone else entirely. There was nowhere left to go, no one left to call, no version of her life she recognized. She told him she was going to expose him, tell everyone. She couldn't carry this. Ray panicked. He tried to apologize, to explain, to beg, but Nora was done forgiving people. Later, when police found the rope in the garage, the medical examiner would note that whoever used it had not done it quickly. There were defensive marks on Nora's wrists. She had fought back. And so he grabbed a rope. He strangled his daughter to death in his own living room. Then he carried her to her car, drove out into the frozen night, found a quiet road where no one would pass for hours. And he left her there in the snow. Then he hired someone, tall, masked, to take the car to the scrapyard, make sure it was gone, make sure it was done. And then he went home, and he waited. When police searched Ray Voss's home, they found a rope in the garage. Brand new, no trace of fiber or skin. But in the fireplace, the fire that had been burning all winter long, they found a fragment, a small, charred piece of rope. Same diameter, same material. And in a corner of his bedroom, hidden under clothing, Nora's underwear. Sent to the lab, tiny hairs caught in the fabric. DNA confirmed, Ray Voss's. Matching precisely what Diane had described, exactly what she'd seen all those years ago. When Crane laid it all out in front of Ray, the rope fragment, the DNA, Diane's statement, the CCTV showing Nora's car leaving the house later than he'd claimed, Ray Voss looked down at the table for a long time. Then he confessed. He said he panicked. He said he didn't mean for it to go that far. He said he loved Nora. He said it like that was supposed to mean something. Ray Voss was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Marcus Callahan and Diane Voss were charged with obstruction and complicity for an affair that misdirected the investigation for 3 months, for withholding information, for protecting themselves over Nora. The hospital doctor was cleared entirely. Priya Nair, Nora's only real friend through all of it, gave a statement to local media. She said Nora had been one of the most genuinely caring people she'd ever met, that she wrote every patient's name on her wrist so she'd remember to use it, that she stayed late not because she was forced to, but because she didn't want anyone to be alone. Nora had spent 6 years making sure 6 strangers felt human. The people who actually loved her couldn't say the same. Nora deserved so much better than what her family gave her. The case became known locally, not because of the sensational details, though those were shocking enough, but because of what it revealed about the people we trust most. Nora Callahan had been surrounded, completely surrounded, by people who claimed to love her. Not one of them chose her. The snowplow driver still works his route every winter morning. Same roads, same gray sky, same frozen quiet. He still passes the spot where he found her. Every time, he slows down, just a little, because now he knows something he didn't know before. The most dangerous things in this world aren't hiding in the dark. They're standing in your living room and waiting, very patiently, for the snow to cover everything. A snowplow driver found a woman buried in the road at 6 a.m., strangled, left there deliberately. Her name was Nora, and the people who loved her said she didn't have an enemy in the world. They were right. What killed Nora wasn't an enemy. It was someone who told her they loved her, someone she trusted more than anyone alive. Detectives spent 3 months on this case, 3 months, before they found out that on the last day of her life, Nora discovered something about the people closest to her, something she was never meant to see. Not 1 secret, 3. And she found all of them in a single afternoon. She didn't survive the night. The full story is on the channel. You are not ready for all of it. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss an update.